I've said almost as a joke, but it's no joke. You know that smell in the fall when you first turn the furnace on and there's that smell of hot dust? That's what that whole novel grew out of. It's almost, yeah. And I don't even know if that detail's in the novel, but I imagined um, him walking home from work and smelling that smell. There was something that happened. Um, our first grandchild, our grandson, um, they were visiting us, our daughter and her husband at the time, and they were about to move. They were living in a town about 35 miles from us, and they were going to move to a town about 60 miles away. And I remember they were over at our house. They were leaving. It was a Sunday night, and then they would be living in a new house. Now, we'd be able to see them just as often, but I watched them walk down the driveway, and they're holding their grandson, and I thought, what must it be like for the grandparents whose grandchild is moving across the country, across the globe, or something like that, you know? And I could sort of feel that pang, and I made use of that in Let Him Go. When somebody marries into your family and he's a jerk, I guess, or something. Um, Although he didn't quite marry into the family. I mean, he married their their son's widow. The Blackledges are a couple who are displaced in a way. They are town dwellers now, and they used to live on a ranch. Although George always had that life both as a rancher and as a sheriff, another sheriff. And uh, Margaret sees Donnie Weeboy mistreat their grandchild, and that she cannot tolerate. And so she wants to do something about it. She wants to take that child away from Donnie Weeboy, but also from the child's mother. Um, George thinks you can't do that. You can't take a child away, you know, and he's thinking, certainly as a former law enforcement officer, that's just not legal. It's just not going to happen. And she says, I'm going, and you can stay or you can come with me. And George Blackledge will always go with her, always. I do want the forces in a novel to be roughly equal. I mean, if it's very obvious that these people are going to get what they want, and the opposition isn't going to amount to much, there just isn't a whole lot of story there. I mean, that's sort of what happens in most fiction. A character wants something and goes after it, and he meets opposition. And if it's a little dragon and it's easy to slay, there isn't going to be much story. But also, I thought of Blanche and Margaret as similar characters in some way. They're both grandmothers. They're both determined that their grandchild should be with them and under their influence. And so I liked the idea of that clash too. What I came up with is a kind of no resolution. You know, I mean, it's the kind of story that ends because there's a pattern that's been broken, so there's no point in going on. Yeah, it was that was a tough one. That was different. I'd had some conversations with Tom Bazooka, who wrote the screenplay and directed the movie, and I knew he had a vision for it, and he sort of let me in on some of the things having to do with casting, and I like both of those actors, and they certainly did. I mean, they felt that once Kevin Costner signed on, they were good to go. And